And hello again. Welcome to the August episode of Let's Talk Miamisburg. Glad to have you with us again. I'm Gary Giles. I'm the city's Public Information Officer. We're going to continue this month to explore some of the impacts of COVID-19 on city operations and also in the region. Now, a little later in the program, we'll welcome staff from the Miamisburg branch of the Dayton Metro Library. They'll tell us how Dayton Metro has adjusted to the new Corona world that we're all living in, and you'll want to be sure and stay tuned for that discussion. First up, though, we want to take a look at some of the financial impacts on city operations and some of the policies that were enacted that were designed to assist residents during this period. Joining me to do that are two members of the Finance Department. To my immediate left is Finance Director Jennifer Johns, and to my far left, or the far right on your screen, is Assistant Director Elise Martin. Now, viewers should be aware that this episode is pre-recorded. As a result, we will be unable to accept questions over the telephone. We will, however, be providing you with contact information if you'd like to follow up on any of our topics. Jennifer and Elise, welcome to the program. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Gary.
You're both first-time guests, so let's begin by giving our viewer a little bit of information about your background. Jennifer, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. I did join the city in 2011 as the Assistant Finance Director and became Director in 2018. Previously, I have had a relationship with the city as a consultant, and my main job there was preparing the financial statements and getting those ready for audit. So I've actually had that relationship since the late 80s, so quite a while I've had that relationship.
Sure. Elise?
So I've actually been with the city for a little over 2 years now as the assistant. I assist Jennifer with all aspects of finance, but most closely in utilities, tax, and accounts payable. Previously, I was an auditor for a little over 5 years with the state in a private accounting firm, which is what actually brought me to Miamisburg. And I fell in love with the city and the people here and was blessed to have this opportunity.
Well, we're glad to have you here on the program, both of you. Jennifer, what are some of the things that the Finance Department in Miamisburg is responsible for?
Well, our main focus, of course, is collections for income tax and utilities. Mm-hmm. We also do the billings for those as well. We are responsible for the cash management of all of the city's funds, as well as the investment of those funds. And we also work very closely with the departments in purchasing and getting all the bills paid. The Finance Department works closely with the City Manager's Office also to prepare the annual budget.
Sure. Well, the emergence of coronavirus this spring certainly caused disruptions for individuals, for businesses, and of course for governments. Now, due to the governor's stay-at-home order, the city of Miamisburg stepped up very early and took some action related to utility billing to assist residents who may have been facing some financial hardships at that time during that initial shutdown, I guess. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about those initial steps.
Sure. At the onset of the governor's stay-at-home orders, the Finance Department really had to come together as a team and make sure that we were providing those services to all of the residents, especially as it relates to utilities. And Elise Martin and the team in the utility billing department also came up with some really good ideas, and I'll let Elise talk about those some.
Yeah. So recognizing that the pandemic would have such a big impact and hardships on residents and businesses, we wanted to go ahead and suspend all turnoffs and penalties for all of our account holders. We have adjusted in many aspects to ensure that the safety is there for the public and for our staff every day. And the biggest key is that we wanted to make sure that there was no disruption of service for our residents.
Water service.
Correct.
So typically, if there was non-payment, there would be some late payment penalties involved. If it extended far enough, water shutoffs.
Right.
All that suspended.
Suspended, yes.
Sure. Okay. How about the water billing counter, which a lot of Miamisburg residents come in and pay their water bill in person? Mm-hmm. How was that affected?
They do, so it was another big adjustment that we had to get used to. But so we were closed. Our offices were closed for about 2 months. Sure. Completely. But we wanted to ensure that some of those people who can still come in person have that ability. So our office hours became open from 10 to 1. and you can come in at any time, and you can also still call to make appointments after that time as well, and we'd be more than happy to
Sure.
work with you.
And for that first 1.5, 2-month period, people had to mail in their payment, or you had a drop box. There were other ways to take care of that.
Right.
You just couldn't come into like every other city building, closed to the public temporarily.
Correct.
Okay. Now that many businesses have reopened and people are back to work, in many cases, normal policies now have resumed. Tell us what that means to the water and sewer customer now that we're near the end of summer, I guess, and how those changes are being communicated to the public.
We lifted our temporary measures within the city
Mm-hmm.
and resumed our scheduled penalties and turnoffs, which that was beginning with the July bills. So we will actually see our first turnoffs this month in August.
But I would like to add that
Yeah.
as part of that time frame where we were not turning off or doing penalties, some of the residents may have had issues where balances did accrue.
Mm-hmm.
So we are aware of that, and we communicated via postcard with those residents and really encouraged them to call in and make any kind of arrangements with our office on a case-by-case basis for those type of hardships.
And that's important. What you're doing is you're looking at individual circumstances, and you're personally working with some of these people who are coming to you, and I think
Right.
that's a very much appreciated step. Are you getting a lot of those calls from those individuals?
So we've sent out postcards to anyone who does have an accrued balance at this point, and just to remind them that we are here to help them,
Sure.
to assist them, and the best that we can. So we have made arrangements, and our staff is available to answer any questions and help during this time.
Sure. As you mentioned, the water billing counter now is open by limited hours. We have a picture we want to put on the screen for the viewer at home. Shows that water billing area, and it looks a little bit different than pre-COVID, I guess.
Yes, and it has served us well so far.
So back to business as usual for utility billing, although the hours for in-person payments are limited. Jennifer, we were only a few weeks into the stay-at-home order when some of the government entities started to sound the alarm around the state about lost revenue and budget cuts, that type of thing.
Right.
Well, we're at the midway point of 2020. You've seen the numbers. How would you describe Miamisburg's economic condition?
The general fund of all governments really is the backbone of what provides services for us.
Mm-hmm.
Police, fire, parks and rec, those type of services all typically come out of the general fund, and the resource for that fund is typically income tax and property tax. So for the city of Miamisburg, we're about 65% income tax of that fund, and then about 10% property tax. So as you said, when we have this type of economic recession, basically, we're going to look to those businesses because that's really where the bulk of our money is coming from for taxes to provide those services. Mm-hmm. And the first quarter of 2020 was fairly strong compared to 2019. That quarter was up about 15%. And then as coronavirus hit and the second quarter came into play, we are seeing some declines. It's really month-to-month declines. At the end of second quarter, we were still up about 2%. So not as strong as the first quarter. We are seeing some declines, but we're kind of expecting that to continue. All of the economic indicators, the GDP and the unemployment rates, those are telling us that, we're still in a declining market, mm-hmm. to say. So we're very watchful, and as we're going into this budget season, trying to project what we think those revenues will do. We don't have a crystal ball, but again, we're looking at indicators and we're checking those businesses to see what type of payrolls are coming in. Miamisburg is fortunate to have a very diverse base of business, mm-hmm. so that does help us for sure.
Well, that was my follow-up question. Projections in this environment, in this climate right now, must be extremely difficult.
It really is.
Not only to the second half of this year, but to 2021.
Right.
You don't know what's going to happen Friday, much less in 6 months down the road.
Right. And even though we are somewhat, reopened, again, there's still many areas that aren't open or opened partially. So I think employers are going to be cautious with their labor market. So we'll just have to watch that and see how it goes.
So it sounds like the way you're describing it, the city thus far holding its own,
Yes.
right?
Yes, from a budget perspective, our revenues are right at where we should be. And on the other side, with the expenses, this time of year, we're expecting to be about 60% spent, but we're really about 52%. So really, we're underspent, and with revenues holding so far, we're at a pretty stable position.
And that really has enabled us to avoid any sort of service cuts
Correct.
to the public. So
Correct.
that's great news for the residents. One other financial question I want to cover, and that is this: the CARES Act, which has gotten a lot of publicity, passed by Congress in Washington, D.C. It provided some financial assistance for local and state governments. How much funding did Miamisburg receive, and how can this money be spent?
Well, Miamisburg received approximately $287,000, and did come very quickly, which was good. But it's very specific on what can be spent. It has to be related specifically to COVID-19. So we're really able to reimburse ourselves for those expenses over and above what we had budgeted to take care of any COVID-19 related expenses. The language what the federal government has told us we can spend the money on is very specific. So we are working together, departments within the city, just to make sure that we have the resources we need to help with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay. Our time is running a little bit short, but Elise, I want to ask you one other question. The Income Tax Office, which is also located in the Civic Center, just down the hall from the water billing area, the utility billing area, they've also reopened on a limited basis.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
That's correct. They also are following the same hours that utilities are, and that's from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Again, we do encourage, though, that if you have any issues, to get in within that time, to please call us, and we'll, set appointments through 5 p.m.
Interesting time for them through all this, because as the shutdown occurs in mid-March, 1 month from the traditional tax filing deadline, and governments from local to state to federal all recognize that problem and extended,
Right.
which I'm
Absolutely.
sure was extremely helpful to the public. So got
Yes.
back to normal, though, to some degree, and now we're past the deadline for filing tax returns,
Yep.
which was July 15th.
Correct.
Jennifer Johns, Finance Director with the City of Miamisburg, and Elise Martin, Assistant Finance Director, joining us here on Let's Talk Miamisburg. You're also encouraging people to continue to conduct business with the tax office by phone and email as well, correct?
Yes.
One question I want to go back to real briefly that I forgot to mention during the utility billing segment is that you have some resources that people can call on, financial resources that you're encouraging them to look into if they have continuing financial hardship.
Right.
Right at the water billing counter, right?
Yes, we actually have them in both offices. We've
Okay.
got a list of, like you said, resources to get that assistance in different aspects. So,
Okay.
yes.
If anybody has any questions about the things we've talked about here, how can they follow up?
So our main line for the city is 866-3303, and that's, you can speak with the gentleman there, and he will most definitely, direct you wherever you need to be.
Okay.
The water number is 847-6460. Again, you can call anytime during this hours, and even if you do get a voicemail, we will call you back as soon as we can.
Sure.
And then the tax line is 847-6462.
Okay. Jennifer and Elise, thank you so much for being here.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gary.
We look forward to a return performance with a continuing update down the road, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, we're going to take now a 60-second break. When we return, we will transition to another topic. We're going to talk with staff members from the Dayton Metro Library about their operation, and we hope you'll stay with us for that. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back as Let's Talk Miamisburg rolls on for the month of August. I'm Gary Giles, and as indicated previously, we're going to transition now to a new topic, and that would be the Dayton Metro Library's Miamisburg branch. And joining me here for our second segment, two individuals from the Miamisburg branch. On the center of your screen is the branch manager, David Hicks, and on the far right on your screen is Andrew Hyatt, and Andrew is the children's librarian at the Miamisburg branch. David and Andrew, thanks for being here and welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
For David, it's welcome back.
Yep.
But let's remind viewers a little bit about your background.
Sure, I've actually been with the Dayton Metro Library for 23 years now, held numerous positions over that tenure, and I've been with Miamisburg Branch Library Manager 2 years this October.
2 years, okay.
It's flying by.
How about you, Andrew?
So I've just been at DML for about 2 years. Prior to that, I taught in Cincinnati and Dayton for about 5 years, and then for Miamisburg, I've been about 3 months. So kind of a wild ride there.
Interesting circumstances about you starting during this time frame. Describe those for us.
Yeah, so just the week before I was supposed to start is when we closed.
Sure.
So I had the experience of having a new position and not having a new position.
Welcome to your new assignment, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, we like to visit with the staff from the Miamisburg branch once a year, and we certainly appreciate you taking the time to be with us. The entire library system, of course, was impacted by COVID-19. David, remind our viewers how Dayton Metro responded to that initial stay-at-home order issued in Columbus.
Sure, so around mid-March, when we got, like you said, the stay-at-home order, we suspended all services except for our 24/7 library and our social media pages. So what we did is we extended due dates for all items that were checked out. We held items that were physically on hold for patrons. We extended those dates so they wouldn't lose those holds they've been waiting for. And then some of the library staff created database tutorials promoting our 24/7 digital library, Overdrive, BrainFuse, homework help. And then we also have a e-card where you can get that online without physically going into a library. And that allows you to get access to all of our research tools, databases, all that good stuff.
So all branches closed
All branches
for
closed.
in-person visits.
For in-person
And you
visits.
went into overdrive with the online services.
Correct.
You also went into overdrive with something new. We've got our first photo we'll put on the screen for the viewer at home.
It's a
and
good
this
photo,
was,
I
It's a
think.
great photo.
Okay, it's a
Came
good
right
one.
From Miamisburg, a new curbside pickup service.
Correct. So around end of May, there it is right there. I know that guy. Around the end of May is when we started a limited curbside service Tuesday through Saturdays. It was Tuesday through Friday from 3 to 6 and Saturdays from noon to 5. That is where patrons could request items, call us, and it's a non-touch service. We can either bring it out, put it in their trunk as you see on the screen, set it on the side of the curb, or put it in our lobby. Due to the high demand of that service, our IT department created a special app to help with that.
Okay, we'll talk about that soon.
Okay.
In a little bit, but that curbside, something you've never done before, correct?
Something we never done before. So during that time, staff were there, and that is when we were installing protective sneeze guards, plexiglass shields to prepare for when we would physically reopen.
Yeah, and even though you have reopened now, which again we're going to talk about, the curbside continues. People can still utilize that service, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Okay. You're watching Let's Talk Miamisburg, a production of the Miami Valley Communications Council here on Spectrum Cable. We are with you in the month of August, and a reminder, we are not live, so there's no opportunity to call in with any questions, but we're going to give you some contact information at the conclusion of this segment. So spring evolves, we get into summer, and Dayton Metro develops and introduces a reopening plan.
Correct.
Okay. It's implemented, but like everything else in the world today, there are changes in place.
It has changed. It's definitely not before COVID, not BC. We reopened on Tuesday, July 7th. We have changed our operating hours to Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that is the same time when we provide curbside service. A lot of things are different. We installed plexiglass shields. All staff are required to wear masks. After a patron checks out an item from an easy check machine, a staff member goes over and cleans it out with a Pure Tap solution. and it's just completely different. So you want me to run down some of that information for you?
Before you do that, let's look at some photos of what the
Okay.
in-branch looks like, and you can describe what we're looking at, some of these safeguards, and then we'll get into some of the new services.
Yeah, so that's a picture of the Ask Me desk right there. As you can see, there's 2 plexiglass shields installed on the high side and the lower side, as well as we also have rolling barriers that are on wheels, and that is what we use to assist patrons who are on the computer or need help with the copy machine.
Oh yeah, we're going to see that one.
Look at that. There's a good example of what it will look like if you're requiring computer assistance at Miamisburg. The young lady there, Christy, she is holding a laser pointer, so that shows you exactly where we're trying to tell the patron on where they hit print, where to click on information.
Sure.
So, as also you can see in the picture, we kind of spread out some furniture. So before COVID, there could have been a patron sitting to Andrew's right side, but you can see that computer is shut down. So those were also some of the preparations that we did while we were closed to the public and only offering curbside service.
Let's look at that next picture then, if we could.
Yes, so let's talk about what happens when you return an item at Dayton Metro Library. Just like before, you return it through the AMH, which after every use, we clean that as well, and those items get quarantined for 4 days in rooms. So then after 4 days, the staff takes them out of quarantine and checks them in and puts them back on the shelf. So we have that in 2 of our meeting rooms, which means currently the library has suspended use of those meeting and tutor rooms. And we've also moved around a lot of furniture in the building, and that, as you can see, there's a lot of chairs in that room. We use those rooms as storage.
Those are the quarantined books, right there.
We call them
right?
quarantine items.
Okay,
yeah,
there you go.
4 days.
Okay, and then the next photo, please.
So we also ask patrons that anything that they touch that they do not want to check out, we put them on. We have 4 of those book carts around the branch library, and what we do is after the cart gets full, staff members takes it, cleans it off, puts it in quarantine, and then reshelves it. So again, we've added a layer of more cleaning and safety for staff and our patrons.
Okay. Changes for the protection of staff and the patrons.
That's our main priority.
Exactly.
Yep, so we can keep offering service.
So what are some of the services that are different now?
Uh,
As you go through your
Right, so really the big thing is, again, patrons can browse the shelves. That has not changed. Use self-checkout machines, that has not changed. Public computers and laptops, those have been reduced to 50-minute sessions.
Okay.
To kind of get people in and out quicker, but we can extend if necessary. You can still get assistance from library staff if the patron is wearing a mask. We do require patrons to wear a mask in our facility, unless there are health reasons why they cannot. And we also ask that patrons or families limit their group to 10 people. And again, we've added the curbside service feature.
Sure. Andrew, let's get into some depth about the online services, both new and existing for Dayton Metro, that are now available to the patrons, including some educational components, which I would guess are particularly important now with some of the online requirements that students are facing. Tell us some of the highlights.
All right, so we have several databases that parents and students can utilize. The big kind of star is Help Now by BrainFuse.
Okay.
In fact, if you go to daytonmetrolibrary.org, you can find a link directly on the homepage, or you can get to it by navigating through databases. It offers live tutoring from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. It has study tools. It's really aimed at middle and high school grades, but especially for folks who might be doing learning digitally, there are these extra tools that they can access that should really help.
Live tutoring. That's a great service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Yeah. What else you have?
So other important things on the younger age side, for children's programming this summer we did both digital story times and then we also did a digital summer camp. And even for older programs that patrons may have missed, they can get it on our Facebook and YouTube pages. And then the last big piece is, as Dave already mentioned, is the app, the curbside app that allows people to kind of very easily schedule a pickup. So the way that works is if patrons get a notification that their item is on hold, they can install our Dayton Metro Library app, And from that app, they can tell us, hey, I'm on my way. And then when they pull up to curbside, they can say, hey, I'm here in the app. And then we bring the materials right out to them.
And I suppose that app is downloadable at the normal places and at no charge, a free app?
charge.
It is free, yep.
Okay. Tell us the difference, explain, since it's new, the differences between what an e-card is and a traditional library card.
Okay, well, an e-card is something that you don't have to physically go into the library to access. So what you do is you go to our website, there's a get an e-card on the website,
Okay.
you fill in the information, and immediately you get a library card number and a PIN number. That allows you access to all the databases from home. And then to get the difference between obviously a physical card is you can physically come in and use it in the building. So for example, if your e-card, it will not let you check out physical items when you're in the branch. You have to transition it into a regular card.
Sure. You know, the Miamisburg branch, as many of your branches are, have always been traditionally very active with in-branch programs. None of those scheduled right now, correct?
Correct. That has been suspended until the end of the year. It may change 2021.
Yeah,
All
I know.
depends on the changes every day.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're adjusting with these virtual offerings.
That's right.
Yeah, the one exciting thing about virtual offerings is parents can rewatch the same, like they could see Andrew telling the same story 6 times a day if they really, really wanted to.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then specifically to Miamisburg, and I believe Miami Township as well, we're going to be offering a teen virtual book club with our teen librarian, David, in the fall.
Yep, starting September 8th at 3 o'clock, we'll have a teen book club by our teen librarian, and it's called Page Turners. So tune into that, and you can find out more information of that on our website.
Well, let's give the viewer at home one more time with a phone number for follow-up information as well as the Dayton Metro website address.
Sure. The Dayton Metro Library website address is www.daytonmetrolibrary.org, and the phone number is 937-463-2665.
Really good to see you back open.
We get that every day
I
from
bet you do.
patrons.
I bet you
Yeah,
do.
some sense of normalcy.
Well, David Hicks, branch manager of the Miamisburg Branch Library, and Andrew Hyatt, children's librarian in Miamisburg, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. And thank you for watching. We'll be coming to you again on September 9th at 7 p.m. where we will discuss the recent property revaluation process in Montgomery County, as well as getting a report from the city's Public Works Department. We hope to see you then. Thank you for watching. I'm Gary Giles. So long, everybody.